Hey everyone, it's Armor Gaming. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Legends. Welcome to this tier series where we're going to analyze the best mythic monsters in specific categories. And today we're going to be analyzing the cooldown activation monsters. So we're focusing on Deny. So cooldown activation, also known as CDA, are the monsters that activate the cooldowns of other enemy monsters. Basically meaning that unless they have a 0 cooldown skill, they are not going to be able to attack. So with that being said, Monster Legends has 3 mythic monsters that rely on cooldown activation. We have Gardevoir, Glamhead, and Siamis in that order that they were released. So let's just jump right into it, starting things off with Gardevoir. His power stat is 5368, this is actually the highest of the 3. The life stat is also the highest, 60,320, and then the speed stat is actually tied with that of Glamhead, 4807, although they are not the fastest, Siamis is the fastest. So I would say when it comes to Deny monsters, the stat that matters the most is speed. You want your monsters to be the fastest, you want them to go first and deny the enemy. The next important one is the life stat, because you want them to be durable, you want them to not die right away. And then the power stat doesn't really matter, because typically they're just going to deny, maybe have a soft deny, something that reduces accuracy, and apply some dots, or maybe have support skills. So, Gardevoir does have a high life, but again, he's not the fastest monster. And then the traits, this also really matters with deniers. At rank 0, we have immune to burn, which it's not a good one. It's really not a good one to have. At rank 1, it upgrades to a demon. It's basically hardened with immunity to burn and ignite guaranteed. So you have immunity to 2 torture effects, as well as just 20% to everything. And then at rank 3, you get a self-status caster stun immunity, meaning you can't be stunned or mega stunned. So this is actually useful considering there are 5 monsters, 5 mythics that stun. Moonhaze, Tremor, and Cat UFO, they all rely on AoE stun. Moonhaze and Tremor actually have a mega stun skills, both of them do. And then Vastas and Unspeakable, they can also do stun. So this does help you against those monsters, and it is nice to have essentially an upgraded hardened with that guaranteed burn and ignite immunity. But at rank 0, not a good thing to have, although this monster was a Golden Legends Pass monster, so most players do have this monster at rank 3 or even higher. So that's Gardevoir. Next up is Glamhead. This is the magic CDA monster. And so this monster's power stat is 5280, which is tied with that of Siamis. Look at that life stats, way different from that of Gardevoir. 48,256, that is a 12k difference in life stat. So this monster is very squishy, very easy to OTK depending on who's attacking him. So you gotta watch out for this monster. And his speed stat is 4807, tied with that of Gardevoir. In terms of the traits, however, this monster unranked starts the game off with immunity to possession, which is a good trait to have. Now in the Mythic era, you really only have Vendekin and Aste who have AoE possession, and both of them are actually faster than your Glamhead. In terms of monsters that can do single possession, Siamis, who is also a cooldown activation monster, Siamis and Moonhaze actually can also do stun, and both of them are also faster than you. So considering those monsters I just mentioned are faster, it is very nice to start the game off with a permanent immunity to possession, and at rank 1 you even get a immunity to torture, which gives immunity to all torture effects: burn, ignite, poison, bleed, nightmares, quicksand, drown, sunburn, shock, and nanovirus. This is awesome. When a monster has a permanent immunity to torture, it makes it so hard to kill the monster. So yes, even though this monster has a low life stat, the only way to take him down is with brute force. You can't just apply a sunburn or a burn on him. You have to take him down hit by hit. Whereas with the Gardevoir, you know, if it's not burning or ignite, you can basically apply any dot you can. If you apply sunburn, the accuracy is reduced. So that's one of my favorite things. Immune to torture is a phenomenal trait to have. And then at rank 3, you get a permanent immunity to blind. Now, in my personal opinion, it's not the best thing in the game. When I think of the monsters that can blind, Svar, Ilian, and Kralig, they all have total blind skills, and they are faster. And there's quite a few monsters that also do single blind or AoE blind, but it's not the best thing in the game. Overall, I really like the immunity to possession and the immune to torture. And then, of course, we have Siamis, the most recent, the final team race mythic monster. So this monster has a power stat of 5280, tied with that of Glamhead. So once again, Gardevoir has the highest power stat of the bunch. The life stat is the second highest of the bunch with 57,907, really great life stats, and the speed stat 4862. Again, this is the fastest of the bunch. When it comes to deniers, you just want to be faster. So I can tell you now, in terms of just stats alone, Siamis takes first place, Gardevoir takes second place, and then Glamhead is in last place. When it comes to the traits of Siamis, she starts the game off with immunity to blind, which, as I already mentioned, protects against the likes of Svar, Illy, and Kralik with their total blinds, and then anyone else that just does a blind. At rank 1, you actually get Abomination, which protects you against possession, corruption, nightmares, and bleeding. So very similar to that of Gaidigo having Demon, where you get immunity to Ignite and Burn, Abomination gives you immunity to Nightmares and Bleed. Personally, I'd rather be immune to the Ignite and Burn because they deal a lot more damage. But if anything, I guess that Nightmares, that drains some stamina, so it's nice to be protected against that. The Abomination helps against Possession and Special Possession, which is Corruption. So that's pretty nice to have. I already mentioned the monsters that can possess you. And then at rank 3, you get a Self-Precision, increases your own accuracy by 50%, meaning you are not going to be missing your attacks. This monster is super fast, can go first, and get that guaranteed deny in. Whether it be with Possession or CDA. Oh yeah, well I kind of spoiled it earlier, this monster has Possession as a skill, so that's pretty amazing. And so when it comes to picking who has the better trait, I'm a little torn because I really like the immunity to Torture and Possession immunity on Glamhead, but I think Siamis has to take it just because of that rank 3 precision. When it comes to your deny monsters, you do not want to deny, you want to make sure it lands, you want to make sure 100% the enemy monster is not doing something against you. So even having the immune to blind can help you out. You know, if in the future there's a monster that starts the game off with a blind to the enemy or a minor blind to the enemy, having that self-precision at the start of the battle, that'll make sure that you still land your Possession, your CDA, whatever you need to land. So for that reason, I would say Siamis takes the first spot in the traits and in the stats. And when speaking about traits, Glamhead takes the second spot. So unlike stats where he's last, he's actually in second for the traits, and then obviously that leaves Gaidigo in third place for the traits. And with that said, let's talk about relics. So all of these monsters can actually hold the mask relic, so no reason to get deep into the mask relics, but I mean, one of the best ones you can probably put is the Jazzstar's Mask. After damaging with a skill, it'll actually drain stamina from the enemies, especially if you're going first. So you drain stamina. The good thing about this is if the enemy monster does have a 0 cooldown skill, maybe your Jazzstar's Mask, well, not even maybe, your Jazzstar's Mask is not going to be, it's not going to be able to drain all of the enemy stamina. So they do have a 0 cooldown skill, they might be wasting stamina to do that 0 cooldown skill, which means they're going to have to recharge the next turn. And typically the 0 cooldown skill is not the powerful skill, okay? And then Gaidigo specifically, he also has access to the Trap Relic, so this is unique to him. So sorting by trap relics, I mean, Nabulion's Trap is the best way to go about it. It's an oblation trap on steroids. If you get attacked, you can drain stamina from all of the enemy monsters. So this monster can do CDA, and thanks to his relic, he actually has pretty good stamina control if he's attacked or if he attacks. And then we have Glamhead, and what I like about Glamhead is that he can actually hold the Staff Relic. So you have two ways to go about this. For one, you can go Pump Seed Staff. If you have this combined with Jazzstar's Mask, you can actually do 100% stamina drain. So going back to that situation where maybe the enemy does have a 0 cooldown skill, maybe 0 cooldown, 0 stamina skill, if the enemy monster chooses to use that skill instead of recharging, even when their cooldown is, like, when it resets and they're ready to use an attack, they're not going to have the stamina for it, so that's pretty good. So you can do Pump Seed Staff, or you can do Cane of Atlantis, and I think this is actually very vital because we're in a game where relics do a lot, right? They drain so much stamina, or maybe you fight Ondana and Ondana drains stamina, so having access to the Cane of Atlantis, I'll give you the situation. If Ondana goes and does a stamina drain and your whole team has no stamina, you know, Ondana doesn't really deny more of stamina drain because of the relics. If your monster is next in the turn order, you can, if your Glamhead is next, you just do Cane of Atlantis, your monsters have their stamina back, and you're good to go. So, depending on the situation, you can either be the stamina drainer or recover your team's stamina. So for that reason, I really like that this monster can hold the Cane of Atlantis. And then we have Siamis, and the cool thing about Siamis is that she can hold 2 masked relics. I mean, which just makes sense. I mean, just look at the monster. So with that being said, I would have to say that in first place, when it comes to relic slots, Glamhead takes it. Being able to hold the Cane of Atlantis or Pump Seed Staff and just do a bunch of stamina drain on top of having cooldown activation, I mean, that's just better overall. And then I would actually have to say Gaidigo followed by Siamis. It's really up to you at the end of the day. The advantage of double mask is, you know, you have a little more variability, but I like the ability to use the Oblation Trap or Nabulion's Trap if you have it combined with a mask. Alright, now let's get into skills. So of course, the bread and butter, Eternal Night, deals moderate special damage to enemies, activates cooldowns on all enemy monsters. So we have an AoE cooldown activation, we have Vengeance Time, which applies total damage reduction twice to one enemy monster. So this isn't deny, but at the same time, it is kind of deny. Well, actually, I didn't read the first sentence. Activates all cooldown one enemy. So it's another single cooldown activation, but on top of that, it is total damage reduction twice. So even if the enemy has hardened or tough, you could potentially land this. So in my head, I think of Brutalizer, who has the tough trait 35% of the time. He doesn't get hit with the negative effect. So you activate his cooldown, he still has a powerful 0 cooldown attack he can do. Hey, total damage reduction. Now and this is probably going to land considering you activate it twice. it doesn't matter how much damage he would have normally dealt, he's going to be dealing no damage against you thanks to the total damage reduction. So it's almost a deny on attackers. But if you do this on a denier, they can still hit you with an effect. But again, this skill actually does activate cooldowns as well. We have an AoE Quicksand, and we have another cooldown activation. So we have 2 single cooldown activation, one on a 1-turn cooldown, one on a 3-turn cooldown because it applies total damage reduction, and we have a AoE cooldown activation. In terms of his other skills, you have a self-cleansing skill, you have another total damage reduction skill that also dazes the enemy, and you have an AoE daze if you choose to use those skills, but I think most of the time you're just going to stick with the CDA, 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 and then the Quicksand. The Quicksand is nice to deal some sort of damage considering you're not an attacker. Yes, this monster has the highest power of the bunch, but you don't really need it. Again, these monsters are going to be running 3 speed runes. They are going to go first. They are going to deny the enemy, and if you're in a situation where you are battling another monster that can activate your cooldowns, why not bring True Demon, a 0 cooldown daze skill, so at the very least you can reduce the enemy accuracy. Alright, Glamhead is next, and this monster loves to curse the enemy. So we have Rock and Roll, which applies curse to one enemy and activates all cooldowns on all of the enemy monsters. This has a 3-turn cooldown. We have Barroom Blitz, which applies possession to one enemy, deactivates all cooldowns, and applies curse to one enemy, gives 1 extra turn to itself. So this monster is unique compared to Gardevoir in the sense that you can do possession, so not only are you CDA, you are also possession plus an extra churn. That is super awesome. So the thing about this possession in particular is that it also deactivates the cooldowns on the enemy, that way they can hopefully use their best attack on themselves, and you also curse the enemy, which is a great dot. So you have a possession extra turn skill, and let's see what else we have. Deals moderate magic damage, applies curse. We have an AoE curse on a 1-turn cooldown. Are you ready? This restores all cooldowns of one ally, so if you needed to restore cooldowns, you have a skill you can do. You have another Oh Black Betty, a single cooldown activation skill. You have the skill that applies curse to a single enemy, and it is spammable, no cooldown, so if you get hit with CDA, you have a skill you can use. And then we have another AoE curse, but the one thing that's super unique about this monster is this skill right here. Love the way she twitched. Deals low magic damage to one enemy, activates all cooldown on one enemy and itself. So this monster has a 0 stamina, 0 cooldown skill that you can just do basically forever, back to back to back to back. If you know for a fact the enemy does not have a 0 cooldown skill, and it's just you versus that monster, honestly, you can just keep spamming this over and over if you and a teammate, and there's no repercussion to this. It literally costs no stamina, so you can do it forever, and it has no cooldown, and you activate your own cooldown, so it's not like you can do another skill, and you can keep activating the enemy cooldown. So very, very, very interesting mechanic. I don't think any other monster has a skill like this. I've never seen this before. So that is awesome. So yeah, I think the fact that this monster does possession plus extra churn with curse is super unique and amazing compared to that of Gardevoir. And then that leaves us with Siamese. So Siamese, her cooldown activation skill actually also applies bleed to the enemy. And the reason this is kind of good is because the bleeding also reduces damage output on the enemy monster by 20%. So not only are they hit with CDA, if they are able to attack you, guess what? Their damage output is going to be reduced by 1/5. We also have its Showtime Anytime, which deals moderate thunder damage, applies shock and guard down to all the enemy monsters. The cool thing about the shock in particular, you'll notice the monster has a lot of shock skills. If you ever face an extra turner, a Nor, a Nightingale, a Raw, a Krusty, you have precision, right? At your rank 3, you have precision at the start of the battle, so you know for sure that shock is going to land, so you know for sure the enemy is not going to be able to do their extra turn skills. If Siamese is battling a Glamhead, you don't have to worry about him doing the possession skill. Well, 1, you're immune to possession, you have Abomination, but 2, if you shock, you know he'll lose the extra turn, so he won't be able to activate the cooldown and possession. He can only choose one or the other. And then we have Double Show. So Glamhead, you are not the only possession monster. Double Show actually activates cooldowns and applies Mega Possession. So Mega Possession lasts for 2 turns. So you kind of have to decide what is better. Having Siamese that can Mega Possess for 2 turns on a single enemy monster but no extra turn, or being able to possess extra turn and then CDA. You know, you can single CDA, you can AoE CDA. The choice is yours. We have another skill that activates cooldown on a 1-turn cooldown. We have Best Show on Earth, which removes positive effects from the enemy monster and shocks and daze. It's nice to have a deny monster that can also remove a positive effect from the enemy. You know, especially considering how fast you are, you can get rid of a lot of status casters in the game, at least to a single target. Let's see, and I think that was it in terms of what's amazing. You also have a 0 cooldown skill with shock, and again, the biggest advantage of this is if you were to get hit with CDA, at least you can shock the enemy extra turner. So when it comes to the skill sets, I am honestly a little bit torn, because with Siamese you have Mega Possession, and then you have AoE cooldown activation and single cooldown activation, right? With Glamhead, you have a possession skill and you have cooldown activation, but the possession gives you an immediate extra turn and it curses the enemy. So it's like, what's better? I don't know. It's tough. I think I'm gonna have to go ahead and give it to Siamese though, and the reason I want to give it to Siamese is because of the fact that she also has a little more versatility with that positive effect removal. The best show on earth. The fact that this can remove positive effects, and you also have an answer to the extra turners with shock and the precision, I think I'm gonna have to give it to Siamese. So it's a close one for me. I don't know if you guys disagree. Let me know in the comments below. But in terms of just the skill set, Siamese or Glamhead, who would you go with? And I think it's clear to say that Guy Daigo is in dead last. Doesn't even matter. He is not in the competition. He only has CDA. It's not like he has a stun, you know. If he would have had stun, maybe he could have been in the competition. But nope, he just wants to do his CDA. Alright, and last but not least, we have the ultimates. So, Guy Daigo deals very heavy earth damage to all enemies, activates all cooldowns, and applies total damage reduction and quicksand. So it's basically all of his skill set rolled into one: CDA, total damage reduction, and quicksand to all the enemy monsters. Glamhead, Play the Guitar, removes positive effects from all enemies and applies Mega Possession. So for his ultimate, he went the Mega Possession route, and he also cleanses whatever positive effect the enemy has. It is cleansed, and then you apply the 2-turn possession. And then we have the big applause. Siamese applies Mega Possession to all the enemies and activates all cooldowns on all of the enemies. So similar to Glamhead, they both do the Mega Possession, difference being that Glamhead removes positive effects first, whereas this monster doesn't remove positive effects and instead activates cooldowns. And I feel like they're just going hand in hand, right? Who's better in terms of an ult? I like the fact that Glamhead can remove positive effects before applying the Mega Possession, but I like the fact that you activate cooldowns on top of Mega Possession. So this is another one where I'm torn. I think I'm going to give it to Siamese again. Ooh, this one is really tough because it could definitely come in handy to remove positive effects a ton of times, right? What are the enemies immune to possession because you've already possessed them? But then the fact that this can Mega Possess and activate cooldowns, I don't know, I feel like that's just a powerful duo right there. It's a very, very, very powerful duo. Because if you're going up against someone who is immune to possession, for example, Siamese herself, right? She's immune to possession, at least you can activate the cooldowns. So, and of course, you can definitely run into situations where the enemies have positive effects, like evasion or something, but I think with the mythic monsters in particular, that's not too common. Alright, so with that being said, guys, overall, I think there's a clear winner, right? Siamese takes it, overall, I would say, and this is primarily because when it comes to being a denier, whoever's faster is typically better, and Siamese has the fastest speed set of the 3 CDA monsters. When it comes to skill set, again, Siamese and Glamhead, they are pretty much on par. It's just, what do you value more? Do you value the ability to Mega Possess and cooldown activate, or do you value the ability to possess, get an extra turn, and then do your CDA stuff? You know, some people might argue that that's very powerful. That's why I had a hard trouble deciding who is better in terms of the skills. And I don't know, like, part of me sometimes is like, maybe Glamhead, but then I'm like, no, Siamese. So overall, I have to give it to Siamese. Even when we talk about traits, the Blind, Abomination, and Precision, another important thing about being a denier, to get that guaranteed land in, right? If you want to do your Glamhead possession skill, what if you miss the possession? What if you just gave the monster basically a free cooldown reset? And sure, you can activate cooldowns, but it sucks that you miss a possession against like a hardened monster. Whereas with Siamese, that is not an issue because you are super fast and you have that increased accuracy. If you got to remove a positive effect, you have a single skill that can remove positive effects, so that is nice as well. I mean, Glamhead is definitely better at applying tortures, but overall, Siamese takes spot number 1. It goes without saying that Glamhead takes spot number 2. And last but not least, we have our Golden Legends Pass monster, Guy Daigo, in spot number 3. And so with that being said, guys, this has been a tier list on the Deniers cooldown activation monster. Let me know what you guys thought about this tier list in the comments below. If you agree, disagree with any points, I would definitely love to hear it. Looking forward to reading all of your guys' comments, and remember to subscribe.